I'm very good at minding my own business. And the trick to minding your own business is knowing what is your business.
But when Dave Chappelle decides something music is his business, the entire industry shakes. And right now, with the Epstein files flooding the internet, Dave just connected dots that Hollywood music prayed would stay buried forever. They're on record. They have all of this information. I sat there and I gave them the names. That's Corey Feldman in 1993 music, telling police exactly who the predators were. They did nothing. And now, music decades later, Dave Chappelle is asking the question nobody in Hollywood once answered. Why were the handlers, the deal makers, the ones with the power to make or break careers, music, the same people showing up in Epstein's world? Nothing feels better to a coward than to watch a brave guy fall. Dave said that about Oprah. And after what just came out, music, that statement hits completely different because the new Epstein file releases aren't just exposing billionaires on private islands anymore. They're music, exposing an entire system. A system that trafficked kids from poor countries. A system that Mel Gibson tried to warn us about in Sound Music of Freedom. A system that Dave Chappelle is now saying Oprah Winfrey didn't just know about, she was part of. This isn't conspiracy theory anymore. This is pattern music recognition. And the pattern is absolutely sickening. Let's be clear about what just happened. Dave Chappelle, the same man who walked away from $50 million because he refused to music be controlled, just publicly accused Oprah Winfrey of being a Hollywood handler, connected to the same elite circles that enabled music Epstein. And with over 3 million newly released Epstein files confirming what people have whispered about for years, suddenly music Dave's decade-old warnings don't sound crazy anymore. They sound prophetic. Here's what nobody's connecting yet. The Epstein files aren't just about one billionaire predator. They're about a music infrastructure. An infrastructure that required scouts, handlers, recruiters, music, and people with enough power and influence to keep victims silent and witnesses terrified. And when you look at who Oprah surrounded music herself with, who she platformed, who she protected, and who she destroyed when they didn't play ball, the picture gets disturbingly music clear. Dave Chappelle has been trying to tell us this for years. Way back in 2006, he music sat across from Oprah herself and told her point blank what happens in Hollywood to people who don't comply. Yeah, we hear those stories. Music, yeah. Would you say you lost your mind? Sort of. Not exactly. Okay, I wasn't crazy. Music. Look at Oprah's response in that moment. She immediately compared him to Mariah Carey. Tried to paint him as unstable, tried to gaslight him on national television. Well, look, Mariah Carey made a $100 million deal. And 3 months later, she's all of a sudden hysterically crazy. He's waving a gun on the street screaming, "They're trying to kill me." That's handler behavior. That's what someone does when they're protecting a music system. You don't silence the truth by debating it. You discredit the person telling it. You make them look unstable. You make them unemployable. Music, you make them disappear. And that's exactly what Oprah did to Monique. Monique's story isn't just about a contract dispute. It's about what happens when you music refuse to be controlled by the machine. In 2009, Monique starred in Precious, a film produced by Oprah. The movie was a massive success. Music, but when Monique refused to do unpaid promotional work because she wanted to spend music time with her family, Oprah and the producers didn't just move on. They blacklisted her. They spread the word industry-wide that she music was difficult, that she couldn't be trusted. But Oprah didn't stop there. And this is where it gets absolutely music vicious. Monique had previously opened up about being sexually abused by her brother music Gerald from ages 7 to 11. Her family never believed her. Even after Gerald was sentenced to 12 years in prison for assaulting another girl, Monique's music parents still downplayed what happened to her. So she cut them off. She was trying to heal. She was trying to move forward. Then in 2010, 1 year after Monique refused to bow down to the machine, Oprah invited Gerald onto her show. Music Monique said no. She made it crystal clear she wanted nothing to do with him. She didn't want to be part of that episode. Oprah did it anyway. Music. And then she went even further. She never said my mother was coming on that show because had Oprah Winfrey said, "Music, I'm going to have your mother," I would have said, "Shut it down." Oprah secretly invited Monique's parents. Music, the same parents who dismissed and minimized the abuse and ambushed her on national television. Let that sink in. Oprah Winfrey. Music, the woman who built her empire on empowering abuse survivors, weaponized a woman's music childhood trauma for ratings and revenge. Oprah, this is me to you. All I would ask you, sister, is why would you do that to me? Was it for ratings? Music, and when Monique confronted her at a Hollywood event years later, Oprah played dumb. Claimed she had no idea Gerald would bring family members. But music, here's the thing. Oprah Winfrey doesn't do anything without a team of producers, researchers, and bookers who music plan every second of her show. You really think she didn't know? You really think that was an accident? No, that was punishment. That was a message to everyone music in Hollywood. Cross Oprah and she'll destroy you using the most painful parts of your life. And Monique's career never recovered. Now let's zoom out. Because Monique isn't the only person Oprah music burned. Rose McGowan, one of Harvey Weinstein's most vocal accusers, called Oprah out publicly music for being best friends with Weinstein while pretending to support women. Seal, the singer, posted the exact music same thing. He said Oprah knew everything about Weinstein for years and did nothing. Music, in fact, she actively helped him maintain his image while he preyed on women behind the scenes. But it gets darker. Way darker. Music. Oprah didn't just enable known predators in Hollywood. She had direct connections to convicted criminals involved in trafficking and abuse. And this is where the Epstein files music become critical. Let's talk about John of God. This man ran a spiritual healing center in Brazil for years. He was featured on the Oprah Winfrey Show music, where Oprah personally traveled to Brazil to meet him and promote his work. She called the experience profound. She gave him a massive platform. This is an interview I wasn't sure would ever happen. One of the most famous spiritual healers in the world rarely talks to anyone music on camera. John of God agreed to sit down with me under a mango tree on the grounds of the casa. Then in 2018, John of God was arrested and sentenced music to 63 years in prison. Why? Because he kept women chained in captivity. Music impregnated them and sold their babies. Some reports even suggested the babies were sold for organs. Read that again. Oprah Winfrey platformed a man who was running a literal baby trafficking operation. Music. And the second he got arrested, Oprah scrubbed everything, deleted the episodes, removed the interviews, tried to memory hole the entire thing like it never happened. Music. But it did happen, and the internet never forgets. Now here's where Dave Chappelle's accusations, music, start making terrifying sense. The newly released Epstein files contain over 3 million documents, thousands of videos, and music images that confirm what investigators have known for years. Epstein wasn't working alone. He had an entire network of people helping him recruit, music transport, and silence victims. The files include videos of young girls being chased through properties in their underwear by Epstein and other music powerful men. Photos so disturbing that even news outlets won't describe them, and emails where Epstein literally compared children to shrimp, saying, quote, "You throw away the top, keep the body." That's not the language of one sick individual. That's the language of someone operating within a music system. A system that required logistics, secrecy, and protection from people in positions of power. Music. And here's the connection nobody wants to talk about. Oprah opened a school for girls in South Africa. An all-girls school in a music-poor country where vulnerable children could be easily exploited. And in 2007, just years after it opened, a matron music at the school was arrested for sexually assaulting multiple students. We arrested a former employee of music who was working at Oprah Winfrey. She was arrested yesterday music for several charges including assault, indecent assault, as well as soliciting girls under the age to commit indecent music assault. Sound familiar? Scouts in poor countries, promises of opportunity, vulnerable children, predators with access. That's the exact model described in the Epstein files. Music. That's the exact model Mel Gibson exposed in Sound of Freedom. Speaking of Mel Gibson, let's talk about why his story matters music here. Because Mel tried to warn us about all of this back in 1998, years before Epstein was a household name, years before #MeToo. Mel described Hollywood as a place where music powerful people were involved in things so dark he couldn't even process it at first. I had a whole bunch of weird paranoid suspicions about what the hell was music going on because there was a lot of stuff I couldn't understand, right? And nobody was really bothering to music explain it to me. He said he felt like he was in a horror movie, like he walked into a town where everyone knew the terrible secret except him. And when he started asking questions, he was shut down, discredited, music blacklisted. And that's insane thinking. I'm paranoid. I imagined that stuff. That couldn't be the reason for music. Why? So-and-so was acting like, could it? And then you find out later on the track that you were exactly on track with a lot of this music stuff. Mel's career was destroyed for years. They called him anti-Semitic. They called him crazy. They made him unemployable. Why? Because he refused to participate in their rituals. Music. He refused to be controlled. Sound familiar? Then Mel produced The Passion of the Christ, funding it with his own money because no music studio would touch it. The movie made over $600 million and became one of the highest-grossing films of all time. But Hollywood still wouldn't forgive him. So he made another movie, Sound of Freedom, a film that exposes the exact trafficking music networks described in the Epstein files. Fake talent scouts, poor countries, children promised music opportunity and instead sold into hell. The movie made over $250 million on a $14 million budget. And suddenly, after the Epstein files dropped, people aren't calling Mel Gibson music crazy anymore. They're calling him a prophet. This brings us back to Dave Chappelle. Dave walked away from $50 million in 2005 because he saw what Mel saw. He saw what Corey Feldman tried to report to police in 1993. They're on record. They have all of this information. I sat there and I gave them the names. In fact, if anybody wants to go back to 1993 when I was interviewed by the Santa Barbara Police Department, Corey gave the police music names in 1993. They did nothing. Why? Because the people he named were too powerful. Music, they were protected. They were part of the infrastructure. And now 30 years later, Dave Chappelle is saying music. Oprah is one of those protectors, one of those handlers, one of the people who keeps the machine running by destroying anyone who threatens music to expose it. Think about what Oprah has done. She platformed and promoted John of God, a convicted baby trafficker. Music. She opened a school for vulnerable girls in a poor country where staff were later arrested for assault. She weaponized Monique's childhood abuse to punish music her for not obeying. She was best friends with Harvey Weinstein and Russell Simmons while they preyed on women. She music tried to gaslight Dave Chappelle on national television when he told her the truth about Hollywood. That's not a pattern of mistakes. That's music, a pattern of protection. Protection of a system, protection of predators, protection of power. And here's one more detail from the Epstein files that should make your blood music run cold. In 2018, on the same day, the FBI opened a case against him. Epstein purchased 330 gallons music of sulfuric acid. You know what sulfuric acid does in large quantities? It dissolves organic matter down to the bones. No trace, no evidence, no bodies. Music, that's not the behavior of someone acting alone. That's the behavior of someone with enough resources, enough connections, and enough music confidence in his protection to destroy evidence in plain sight. And where's Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's music right hand? She's in a luxury prison with a pet cat. Not solitary confinement. Music, not maximum security, luxury with a pet. Meanwhile, Epstein himself allegedly committed suicide in a cell with non-functioning music cameras and sleeping guards. You believe that? Because Dave Chappelle doesn't. Black people to be disappointed in me for putting that out there. You didn't want to be disappointed music in yourself. You know what? You're right. Dave said that years ago. He was telling Black America not to be disappointed in him for speaking truth. He was saying, be disappointed in yourselves for protecting people like Oprah just because she's successful, music, just because she's powerful, just because she seems like she's on your side. So, where does this leave us? Dave Chappelle is now publicly music connecting Oprah to the same elite circles that enabled Epstein. Mel Gibson's warnings from the 90s are being validated music by federal documents. Sound of Freedom isn't fiction anymore. It's a documentary. And the handlers, the ones who blackled careers and destroyed lives to keep people quiet, they're being named. Oprah's name music is trending. Not because she won another award, not because she gave another inspirational music speech, but because people are finally asking the questions Dave Chappelle has been begging us to ask for 20 music years. Why did she platform traffickers? Why? Did she destroy whistleblowers? Why did she protect predators? Music. Why was she so close to people who are now in prison or dead under suspicious music circumstances? The files are out. The pattern is undeniable. And Dave Chappelle isn't backing music down. Some of your worst nightmares were real. Mel Gibson said that in 1998. Dave Music Chappelle has been saying it since 2006. And now in 2025, with millions of Epstein files confirming every music dark suspicion, we can't ignore it anymore. Oprah Winfrey isn't the humanitarian hero she pretends to be. She's a handler, a gatekeeper, a protector of the machine, and Dave Chappelle just put the entire industry music on notice. The truth is coming out, and no amount of power, money, or influence music can stop it anymore. The question is, are you ready to accept